chapter 4, 35 through 41. This is the story of Jesus calming the storm. And then I've got a nice poem by William Marr, After the Storm. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drowned?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." After the storm. Now that it's over, the sea, calm, like a kind old grandfather, squints at a little seagull flying leisurely in the sun, brushing its white wings against the blue cheeks of the sky. So blue that no one seems to remember why all the shouting, howling, pounding, and beating. So end the readings. The spoken meditation is Every Riven Thing. It was written and read by Christian Wyman. I've got it, a recording of it that I'm going to play for you. And you'll notice that the language in this is a little male-oriented, and it's not scripture. So it's a poem, and just be with the depth of the words here, if you can. And I'll have a lot more to say about it in the sermon. Okay. I hope you heard that. Maybe not.
No, Sam, we did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why? Maybe I needed to do a screen share at that moment. All right. Well, you'll get a second chance on this. Actually, do you want to let me do it? Let me do it again, because his words are really beautiful. Oh, I see the problem. We can't do a screen share at the same time. Aha. Well, let me read the words then. If you can go back to there we go. God goes, belonging to every riven thing he's made. Sing his being simply by being the thing it is. Stone and tree and sky. Man who sees and sings and wonders why. God goes. Belonging to every riven thing he's made means a storm of peace. Think of the atoms inside the stone. Think of a man who sits alone, trying to will himself into a stillness where God goes belonging. To every riven thing he's made, there is given one shade, shaped exactly to the thing itself. Under the tree, a darker tree. Under the man, the only man to see. God goes belonging to every riven thing. He's made the things that bring him near, made the mind that makes him go, a part of what man knows, apart from what man knows. God goes belonging to every riven thing he's made. Let us take these words and our own thoughts, reflections, and prayers into a time of silence. My first youthful sailing experiences were delightful. My parents bought a sunfish when I was a teen. Introduced in 1952, the popular fiberglass sunfish is a personal size beach launched almost 14-foot sailing dinghy. It features a very flat board-like hull carrying a crab claw sail mounted to an unstayed mast. It has a shallow draft with a removable dagger board in the center and a detachable rudder at the back. With a little breeze, it glides through the water. With a blast of wind, you might easily be in the water yourself. My family took turns sailing on Lum's Pond near our home in Newark, Delaware. Rarely did we get enough wind there for anything scary to happen, and if a thunderstorm appeared, we'd be out of the water quickly. That wasn't my experience on my friend Nick's father's 27-foot sailboat one afternoon on the Chesapeake Bay. Several of us were out on a pleasant summer afternoon when a big storm suddenly blew up. This is an unusual occurrence in the Chesapeake Bay. The wind started blowing hard and the waves began breaking over the bow of the boat. The boat heeled over enough that we had to hold on to the sides, fearful of falling into the now angry waters. While we, the timid passengers, grew more frightened and seasick as the rain beat down on us and the lightning flashed in the sky, my friend's father, holding the tiller, had a big smile on his face, reveling in the speed the boat was cutting through the waves. The storm passed almost as quickly as it has come. Thankfully, we made it through in one piece without losing anybody overboard, and the sea became tranquil and calm as it had been before. A gentle breeze resumed as we returned to port with the wind at our back. Uncountable sailors have had this same adventure over as many years as humanity has launched boats into the water. The unexpected movement from tranquil calm to turbulent tempest makes crossing any body of water both dangerous and thrilling. And not everyone gets to their destination. When Jesus suggested they cross over to the other side, I doubt anyone worried too much about the evening crossing. The boats probably crossed these waters all the time, usually without trouble. Not this time. The squall came up with fierce winds. The Greek word for wind in this scripture is animos. There is a personification to this word, a very strong, tempestuous wind. The wind almost has hostile intent. That aggressiveness could be the subjective experience of sailors struggling to keep their boat from sinking. In the story, the wind is so fierce it swamps the boat. The crew is quite disturbed by all of this. They turn from their struggle to keep the boat afloat to check on Jesus. Rather than being roused to their aid, bailing water or managing the sails or oars, what is he doing? Sleeping on a cushion. He seems perfectly content, or so it seems, to go down with the boat. Jesus is enjoying stillness and peace in what seems completely the wrong moment. The crew's frantic efforts to deal with the storm might be a metaphor for how we cope with the serial assaults of modern life, driven by endless to-do lists, deadlines, demands for our attention coming from every direction, be it family, friends, electronic devices beeping and chirping at us. We rush from one thing to the next, always fearful of missing out or being missed. One's nervous energy can be depleted by interruption after interruption till we feel disoriented and at sea with the gale blowing up. With all this chronic overstimulation, the one thing that gets sacrificed again and again is stillness. Unplugging, withdrawing from 24/7 availability, marking out Sabbath time doesn't feel like an option when so much needs to get done. But can anything important get done when we've lost our connection to our center? The spoken meditation this morning came from Christian Wyman. He's a respected poet and former editor of Poetry magazine. He also is a professor of religion and literature at the Yale Institute of Sacred Music. Not long after he found the love of his life and married her, he was diagnosed with an incurable cancer. The treatments that put it into remission also temporarily robbed his mind of the ability to write poetry. He was interviewed by Krista Tippett for an episode of her On Being podcast. Here is what he said about writing that poem. So the title is Every Riven Thing. And riven is kind of an Old Testament word meaning broken, sundered, torn apart. This is actually the first poem that I wrote after years of silence. All those years I mentioned. I had gone, I think it was 3 years, without having written a poem. And in the middle of all those dramatic things happening to me, this was one of them. I sat down one day and found myself writing again, and this poem came to me all of a sudden. And it was quite a shock to write a poem, and quite a shock to write a poem especially like this one. Crucial to this poem is the word riven. Other definitions include shattered, wrenched apart. The feeling of being riven, might be like the battering one experiences on a boat in a storm. In the poem, this tormented word is surrounded by grace. God goes belonging to every riven thing he's made. God goes with every riven thing. God belongs to every riven thing. God's name is on every riven thing God has made. There is no distance, no separation between the broken, the sundered, the torn apart, the shattered, the wrenched apart, and God. It all belongs. When Jesus awakens, he acts. He rebukes the winds. The Greek word is epitimio, to chide, reprove, admonish, to do the opposite of honor and value. This is a strong confrontational word. Jesus commands the winds, quiet, be still, peace. The Greek word here is phimeo, literally shut the mouth of the winds. And the winds obey. The sea becomes completely calm. My use of this Christian scripture today is not to argue for divine intervention, but rather to suggest a metaphor to contemplate. How often Are we caught up in a storm, get worked up into a lather about something that isn't important? The fierce wind we face might be the hot air coming from another person's mouth that only has power because of our insecurities make it so. Storms can arise out of little more than a slip of the tongue or a thoughtless remark. How many of the king's men die on both sides fighting a war that begins with an insult or a slight? Perhaps the squall can become calm just by someone shutting their mouth. The challenge in finding calm, finding stillness, could be in one's preconceptions. The crew could only see the storm, not the way out of the storm. They accepted the terms of the storm without questioning it. Jesus challenged the apparent reality before him, and by doing so, transformed it into calm. How did he do it? He didn't believe in the squall. His faith was in something greater than the squall. Was his faith in a divinely ordained supernatural power? Or faith in his penetrating perception of the malleability of reality? Or maybe he saw signs that the storm was breaking and used it as a teachable moment. We don't know. We only have a story to challenge our own perceptions of what is and what can be. There is a temptation to deify Jesus and stand in awe of his magical powers to command the wind to be still. And there may be a desire to imitate Jesus and learn the craft of storm control through special words or actions. Neither are the path to calm, stillness, and peace we seek. In Wyman's poem, he also has wise words about the use of the will to command stillness. He writes, "Think of the man who sits alone, trying to will himself into a stillness where God goes belonging." These words express the human urge to strive for self-improvement, to will ourselves into what we imagine is the desirable way of being, to belong to the movement of all that is holy. This speaks to the paradox of meditation practice. Sitting still for hours at a time can be one willful struggle after the next. I know this well from personal experience. Coming back again and again to the breath, striving to will myself into stillness when the puppy just will not stay on the paper to do his business. Yet without that persistence, the mind will not become one-pointed and still. And in that stillness, the mind's eye of insight opens and witnesses the flow of moment-to-moment experience more clearly. It witnesses the truth of being human, unmediated by any teacher or teaching. That witnessing process develops a strong confidence, faith, if you will, in the validity of what is known and the path of practice that reveals the knowing. Jesus challenges his disciples. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? I feel for these disciples. They are just breathing a sigh of relief that they are not going to drown as the sea becomes calm. They are grateful that they've got a Messiah in the boat to save their bacon. But Jesus doesn't want to be their miracle worker. Immediately, Jesus pushes them out of their comfort zone. You rebuke the winds next time, not me, I can hear him saying. Let me get my rest. As I read this story, I don't recognize a Savior Jesus. He isn't looking for people to bow down to him or worship him. What is clear is the disciples' confusion. Who is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. He sure doesn't behave like any Messiah they've anticipated or imagined. Now that it's over, the sea, calm like a kind old grandfather, squints at a little seagull flying leisurely in the sun, brushing its white wings against the blue cheeks of the sky. So blue that no one seems to remember why all the shouting, howling, pounding, and beating. In the stillness, it is hard to remember the terror of the squall. In the squall, it is hard to remember the peace of calm waters. To remember the possibility of either, when the opposite is present, makes a positive difference. To know the ebb and flow of existence while experiencing the flow and ebb of existence can bring inner peace, even when the storm rages around us. And no matter what, we don't stop belonging. God goes belonging to every riven thing. He's made the things that bring him near, made the mind that makes him go, a part of what man knows, apart from what man knows. God goes belonging to every riven thing he's made. So be it.
Good morning. I'm Sigrun Newell. I'm part of the virtual choir, which you'll begin to be able to see again on our Christmas Eve service. This morning, we have an offering, and an important way we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with an annual pledge paid throughout the year. Another way to support the good work of this congregation is by making a generous contribution via one of the options shown on this slide. You can click on the tiny URL link in the chat window to contribute, or you can send a text to the number shown on the screen. The examples on this slide show how to label your text to indicate the amount and purpose or intent of your gift. So if you want to send $20 to the collection plate, you text the number 20. To send money to your pledge, you text the number you want to spend and the word pledge. We must now say goodbye to our Facebook friends. Consider joining us on Zoom next time by visiting albanyuu.org. We enjoy welcoming guests and visitors to our service. If you are a guest or a visitor and you'd like to tell us who you are and where you're from, You can click on the blue raise hand symbol in the participant window. Our technician will unmute you and invite you to speak. You may also, or instead, click on the visitor link you will find now in the chat window. Chris, do we have any visitors?
Raised. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Thank you, and welcome to all who have joined us today. If you'd like to learn more about our congregation or Unitarian Universalism, you can find in the participant window someone with welcome before their name. You can reach out to that person privately in the chat window now or after the service. And now it's time for a community greeting. We welcome the chance to greet each other. In our Zoom format, this is done through breakout rooms. You can say hello and share your name. This will last about 90 seconds, and then we'll all come back together. Wait for the invitation to join a breakout room.
It looks like we're having some technical difficulties. I don't know whether the breakout rooms are going to be possible at the moment.
Okay, should we go on with joys and sorrows then?
I would suspect so.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
Over to you, PCA. She's muted.
Donna, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. This is the time set aside in our service for sharing significant personal milestones in our lives. There are 3 ways to share a joy or sorrow. The first option is to type your joy or sorrow in the chat window. Please put the words "read aloud" at the beginning of your message if you would like us to do that. Please also consider connecting privately in the chat with a pastoral care associate. On duty today are Randy Rosette and me. The second option is to click the blue raise hand symbol in the participant window. Our technician, Chris, will unmute you and invite you to speak your joy or sorrow. And then the third option is to submit a joy or sorrow using our website by noon on Friday, prior to the service. We'll begin by reading those that were submitted this past week. Then we'll hear the spoken joys and sorrows, followed by the chat entries that are to be read aloud. Chris, were any joys and sorrows submitted earlier this week?
I did not receive any.
Okay. Then Chris will unmute those who wish to state their joy or sorrow.
Right. And we will start with Fred Eames. Go ahead, Fred. Unmute yourself and proceed.
Gotcha. Hi. Okay, thanks. Well, today, December 6th, is a birthday of our 7 grandchildren. The oldest, Milo Allen Eames, is 7 years old today. Big boy.
Great, thanks. Nancy Wagner, go ahead, unmute yourself and proceed with your joy and sorrow.
My cousin David died on Monday this week and was buried yesterday. Thank you.
Sorry to hear that. At this point, I don't see any more folks with raised hands. So we'll move on to Randy, who is going to read the chat sorrows.
Okay, so Kathy Harris reports that her sweetest cat, Kizzy, died on Monday. Christine Vanderlyn also says that she has a friend who had open heart surgery during Thanksgiving week, and he is now home recovering well with his family. And I don't see any others in the chat. Oops, excuse me. There's another one. Alda Salvo says Wednesday, December 2nd, was Susan Thompson's 80th birthday. She has been a member of Albany UU since 1974. And I think that's it. Oops, excuse me. Annika Pfluger says her son Danny was accepted into the architecture program at SUNY Alfred State College of Technology. She's very proud of him. It's his first choice, so he will be attending this fall. And that's it, I believe.
For all the,
Hold on, there's one more thing. Natalie and Val Plamondon also state that this past Thursday was Mom's 80th birthday.
And for the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, let us hold all that we've heard and felt in our hearts.
okay. Great. I want to play this for you, and I'm going to try doing a share screen on my own to see if I can do this and play for you this meditation. I like the way he reads it. I want to read the every ribbon thing again as our prayer of affirmation. See if that'll work.
God goes, belonging to every riven thing he's made, sing his being simply by being the thing it is. Stone and tree and sky, man who sees and sings and wonders why. God goes. Belonging to every riven thing he's made means a storm of peace. Think of the atoms inside the stone. Think of the man who sits alone, trying to will himself into a stillness where God goes, belonging. To every riven thing he's made, there is given one shade, shaped exactly to the thing itself. Under the tree, a darker tree. Under the man, the only man to see. God goes belonging to every riven thing. He's made the things that bring him near, made the mind that makes him go. A part of what man knows, apart from what man knows. God goes belonging to every riven thing he's made.
And we're going to sing now. People Look East, one of my favorite Advent carols. And Elena's going to sing it for us. And you.
As we extinguish this chalice, please join in the words shown on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The benediction this morning is a poem by Wendell Berry called The Peace of Wild Things. In it, he mentions a wood drake. In our world, that's the male mallard duck. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake at night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty, on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. And we give our thanks today to the following: to the ushers, Kathy Harris, Dawn Dana, Dick Dana, Annika Pfluger. The pastoral care associates today were Donna Meixter and Randy Rosette. The welcomer is Barb Manning. I, Sigrun Newell, am the service associate. The musicians today, Elena Karpoff, Randy Rosette, Chris Jensen, Barb Metz, and Dave Metz. As with every week, the office support is by Sapphire Correa, and the technical support is by Chris Jensen.